Sunshine. He's in the house. Back there. Okay, use the bathroom back there now. Right here. I don't know. I just saw it.
When are we supposed to? 6:30. Okay. It's almost 6:30. Shall I go get it?
Is this your mellow preparation zone before the show?
Are we starting?
No.
Oh, okay.
Just chit-chatting? Just to get
No,
the
no,
levels?
no. That's where I need to get to. Quiet before I go
The
upstairs.
New York number Ryan
Before the
will
storm.
answer and he'll make sure to get it
Whenever you're
to
ready,
you.
Shells.
Okay, well, first of all, congratulations. I've been reading the reviews all day and
Oh,
you're all
thanks.
swinging with pleasure.
It's funny because I feel like I'm at a period where a lot of the reviews that I've seen of the album, which don't matter to me as much as the fans' response because critics don't pay for their records. I used to be one, I know, so I have no respect for what they say, and I don't create music for them to judge, but they have a hard time admitting that something's good. Any compliment is very begrudging. I think it's pretty amusing that people still complain that I'm not scary or shocking anymore, when I never intended to be, and if I was to them, then they've grossly misunderstood what I am as an artist.
A lot of the things I was reading today, I read your journal as well on the internet site, it seemed that you feel you've reached a new level of artistic exploration. Where are you now, do you think?
Well, taking a cue and inspiration from the oppression of McCarthyism in the 30s in Hollywood, in the late 20s, Expressionism in Weimar, Berlin. These were artists that were really persecuted for their imagination, as have I been. And rather than letting that beat me, I think I've found myself as a survivor, and I feel like I conquered many things over the past few years with my previous work. So this album is what you build when you conquer something. It's an amusement park of sorts. And I've found the politics and religion in the art and what I do. And
So is it more like a full-bodied
well,
experience now,
it's
or?
part of it's being a dandy and making your whole lifestyle the art itself, and living like you're in a movie because you can, and not being afraid to use your imagination and be 100 different things whenever you feel like it. The golden age of grotesque isn't, merely a record. It is what it says it is. For me, it's an era of expressionism.
Mm-hmm. And when a lot of people, when I saw the Bowling for Columbine, it definitely turned a lot of heads where people were like, oh my gosh, I never knew it was like that. Was that frustrating for you that it seems like most people don't understand at all what you're trying to say?
I've never wanted to be understood in one way by everyone because I am an abstract idea that people get to experience a transformation that's part of the way I create. Some artists just show you the end result. I think it's amusing more than frustrating that people say, oh, I didn't know that you were so well-spoken. I didn't know that you were so stupid for not noticing before. But I think it's important that that happened at a certain time, that film. And it was a matter of me showing people I was a survivor, and this is the right record for me. It's the right time for people to see what I'm really made of.
Absolutely. If there were things that people, like from the show, or even if they're just at home listening to the album, if there's at least one or two things you hope they glean from listening to this, what do you hope they have?
Well, in the easiest way, in the tradition of vaudeville and cabaret and burlesque, it's an escape from a world that's too ugly and we can't control. So it's being able to create a world for yourself. And this album, I think, will make people know me more, but I don't think they'll ever understand me. And it's an album about relationships. It's about things that I've experienced. I think it's more direct in some ways, but it's very chaotic and dada in other ways. So some people might not understand it at all in the way that I intended it, but that's kind of the beauty of anything that you make, that it's something for everybody to take away from. Any art isn't complete until someone experiences it.
Is that where you get your satisfaction from? Getting the art out of you? Because you obviously have numerous outlets for expressing yourself.
I wouldn't say it's cathartic as much as people would think it is. it's more of a necessity. I would die for what I do, and I've showed people that. At the same time, I can't live without doing it. It's my nature.
Is it, if you weren't a musician today, if somebody just, I don't know, for some reason they said, we outlaw musicians, what would you do?
I would find a different way to express myself, and that's part of what this whole period for me is, that I don't draw a line between painting or making movies or making music. Music is the core of it, but it's not the owner of it. And I think I've been able to combine art and entertainment in a way that I don't think I ever perceived was possible, because art is often looked at as something for museums and pretentious, and entertainment something shallow and ends when the show ends. But for me, I'm both all the time, and that's what Marilyn Manson has been from the beginning.
Now you're no stranger to people having aggravated relations with you and your music and things. What, does it delight you in a way that it does rouse? I mean, this is a nation that's becoming so homogenized and kind of complacent in a way.
Well, what I do is meant to be provocative. I mean, if I wanted to be merely shocking, I would be much more offensive. But there's no point to that, really. But what I do is meant to be a question mark. And so people are going to fight about the answers to that. And some people want the answers from me because they don't understand, because that's what entertainment usually provides.
Mm-hmm.
So I think people are finally trying to come to terms now with what I am. And, that makes people uncomfortable, because I show everyone their fears. Fear is part of the creative mechanism. You can't create without it.
And what about your relationship with America?
I'm cheating on her. I'm an American artist. It's very important for me to be one. America needs someone like me to say what I say, and to make sure that democracy is functioning properly. If we're going to fight wars and represent democracy and freedom of speech, then I have to open my big mouth and make sure that everyone's listening.
Absolutely. And also, I've noticed a lot of times, a lot of the articles that I was reading about you really pushed into your personal life. To what extent is that, do you think, no one's business or part of the, you said earlier that you live your life, as the artist that people see on stage. So is there a line?
I'm different in every part of my life, but that doesn't mean that I stopped being Marilyn Manson. But you have to give up your personal life when you become something like me. I've come to terms with looking at it like when Walt Disney created Mickey Mouse. That creation has a life of its own. So personal, that definition, that word doesn't even work for me anymore.
I used to giving birth. Okay,
One
well,
more
just
person opens the door, I'm going to punch him in the face.
I'll just ask one or two more questions and we'll wrap it up. This, you're kicking off with grotesque burlesque, and the aesthetics of it are just spectacular. How did you, obviously it's from the Weimar Republic period. Why, though, was that something that sang to you, as it were?
Well, I love the approach of Hollywood in the 30s. There was a point where I think fashion was, for the first time, being marketed as a commodity. People were being sold on the idea to look like what they saw on the movie screen. And that, in a way, is very odd that fashion was born. At the same time, we were fighting fascism. So there's a great contrast between Hollywood and Berlin. And I find that contrast to really represent the two parts of my personality. And the decadence in Berlin, people were behaving like there was no tomorrow, because there might not have been. And that's something I think we all can relate to right now.
They were the only ones who made lipstick during World War II.
Oh, there you go. And I think if everyone wore lipstick, the world would be a lot happier place. You can't really fight when you have lipstick on.
No, it's not really a brutal sort of approach to things.
But you can do other bad things.
With their pleasure. You've lost and gained a band member. It's obviously been the light, anything
I didn't
like that
lose him. I know where he's at.
Well.
He's just not in the band anymore. It was, it's unfortunate, especially on a friendship level, that something like that happens. But it is a testimony to how important the evolution of this band was and the integrity of it. Everyone that I surround myself with has to not just believe in my vision. I want it to be theirs as well. And they have to have the same enthusiasm. And in some ways, even though it was bad, it helped us become a stronger band. And it shows on the record. We're very unified, and we're ready to tie a brick to our shoe and kick the world in the balls.
And finally, when this album and the rehearsals for the show and everything, how did you know when they reached the point where you're like, rock on, we're ready to go? This is it.
Today at 6 p.m.
What?
It's just a matter of, there's different elements to performance, and what we're doing here at the Grotesque Burlesque, what we did in Berlin and London, each one was different. They're all different than what our tour will be. But I like to exercise that idea that it's too boring for me, and I'm sure it's boring for an audience to expect the same thing. Obviously, people expect something in particular from me, and that's my aesthetic. But I'm making that much more bigger than life than before. So this show and this tour will sound and look like the album does. And it's ugly, it's dirty, and it's glamorous. It's all that sometimes.
Marilyn Manson. Excellent. Well, thank you very much. Some friends of mine used to meet for Berlin.